Hey. So I am on the Facebook and I am on the American Soundbite page here on the Facebook. If you haven't yet liked or followed or friended or whatever it is you're supposed to do to a page on the Facebook, look up the American Soundbite and like it. You will be informed not just when we go live with a new video, but you'll be informed every time we post any content that is critical to, well, your existence each and every day. So I am going to start a watch party to watch together with my friends. And it would be awesome. And I mean, literally, it would be awesome if you did the same thing. Let your friends watch the American Soundbite with you. I believe you can even share comments back and forth while I'm talking. Do BLM. See, you got to type a new title because you could have a different title than the title that I use. And, you know, it's something that's going to be catchy, something that's going to make, you know, people like, oh, I want to watch this. Or may just, you know, I don't know, piss some people off, but that's my personality in general. So it's now starting the watch party. You see the little popcorn thing, and then it pops up actually relatively quickly. And as you can hear, I personally have to remember to turn the volume down because otherwise it plays at a delay and then it picks it up on the microphone and then it just creates a confusing environment for everybody. So, hey, Philippe, welcome. So, yeah, we are about to start a controversial, well, probably not as controversial as the title makes it sound, but a controversial topic here on the American Soundbite today. Before we start, you should know that I start my day each and every morning with a cup of joe. And it's not always from the Dunkin'. But let me tell you what. When I go to that place that has the mermaid on the front door or, well, anywhere else for coffee, they all serve coffee. It's beans that are grown, you know, I don't know, in an arid climate somewhere in the hills, and it's all coffee and it's all roasted and then it's all brewed. It's all coffee. But when you go anywhere else, they've got small and medium and large, or maybe some of those places call it venti and poupe and crappe or whatever their names are. But it's all the same thing. It's a small, it's a medium, and it's a large. Well, at the Dunkin', you see, they changed the game. They've really reinvented coffee. Because at Dunkin', if you go to the drive-thru or if you're able to even walk in these days, they have small, medium, large, just like everybody else. But then they turned it up to 11 because they've got small, medium, large, and the extra large. And if you're anything like me, in the morning, you need an extra large, and Dunkin's the only place to get it. Let me tell you what, that is black gold. All right, Ken, hey, welcome. Glad you joined us. And Paige is here too. So we are now going to go live with the program because I think everything's up and running. It may or may not be on YouTube, but there's nothing I can do about that. So I have to hit a couple buttons and then we start the show. You are listening to The American Soundbite, a podcast that features common sense thoughts of an everyday American. This is the start of the most valuable 10 minutes of your day, so congratulations on joining us. I'm certainly glad that you are here for the conversation today. Hey, before we start the program, I'd like to ask you to help out your friends, your family members, even your coworkers. Find the share button on whatever app that you're listening to the program on today. Find the share button. Let them all know that you start your morning by listening to the American Soundbite because, well, it gets your brain juices flowing, may raise some emotions, but certainly gives you a lot of content and topics to talk about around the water cooler or, even on a Zoom meeting here today. If they listen, they're going to be more conversive, they're going to be more thoughtful, and, well, just smarter and better people to be around each and every day. So let them know, and it'll make your day better. Black Lives Matter. But do Black Lives matter to BLM? That's our topic. That's our content. That is what we are talking about here today. And the reason it's a question is quite simple. Black Lives Matter profess to, care about Black lives. They want to make living conditions, to make, law and order more fair for, Black people, for minorities in general, for people who may be excessively prosecuted or discriminated against by Johnny Law. But if Black Lives Matter to Black Lives Matter, then wouldn't it be important for them to focus on improving the quality of life of Black people and actually reducing the amount of crime, the amount of harassment, the amount of murder to Black people all over the country? This comes into question specifically because, when we look at the recent activity and all of the protests and the people who have, ridden on the back of the BLM protests to cause the riots and the looting and the destruction and everything else, obviously two completely different organizations and groups. But when you look at all of the media, all of the exposure, all of the people that they have gotten to bind together for this movement, at that same time, the number of murders, specifically in Black communities, has increased, exponentially. In Chicago, just last weekend, 109 Black people were murdered on the south side of Chicago. 109 people were murdered in one weekend in Chicago. What did Black Lives have to matter have to say about that? Let me play you the clip. Oh, wait, I don't have a crickets soundbite. They said nothing. They did nothing. In New York City last weekend, 74 Black people were murdered in New York City last weekend. A city that over the last several years has seen the murder rate go down to almost zero. And last weekend, 74. What has Black Lives Matter done to improve the situation in New York City? Again, crickets. You see, I believe, honestly and wholeheartedly, I believe that Black Lives Matter. Because under our Constitution, under the law that regulates the law of this land, all men are created equal. And that means that, men, it doesn't matter what your race is, what your skin color is, what your nationality is, what your background is, what your sexual preference is, what your identity is, none of that matters. It doesn't say some men matter. It doesn't say all white men are created equal. It doesn't say all heterosexual men are created equal. It specifically says all men are created equal. And while, yes, in the history of the United States, our actions didn't follow the words of that Constitution, but it still very plainly states all men are created equal. And if you look actually at the history, the people who are true constitutionalists, the people who truly believe in freedom and in civil liberty, are the people who have always fought for the freedom and the rights of all people. That being said, it is crucial that organizations like, Black Lives Matter, or specifically Black Lives Matter, that they take a look at what their focus is. And while they want to make sure that racial profiling and excessive force and all of that is eliminated in our police forces around the country, it's equally, or probably even more important, that an organization like Black Lives Matter take their hundreds of millions of dollars of resources and figure out how to put together some programs, whether it's very localized programs to help reduce the amount of crime. And specifically right now, because we're seeing an increase, a rapid uptick and increase in it, we need them to help to reduce the amount of violence upon Black men and murders in those communities. Seattle, Chicago, New York City specifically, but it's happening across the country. If Black Lives Matter, then Black Lives Matter needs to focus on helping these communities to find ways to reduce the crime to begin with. They need to have an action committee and a plan and a structure to help to make sure that the organization of law enforcement across the country does not profile people or unjustly apply the law to certain groups of people, to Black people, to Asian people, to whatever it is. But at the same time, they need to work within these communities to reduce the crime, to reduce the hate, to reduce the anger, and to stop the violence amongst themselves. Because Black lives do matter, but every Black life matters. And that means that we need to work together to find ways to reduce the crime. Yes, it's a systemic long-term problem, and it's not going to be fixed overnight. But if we reduce the violence and we ultimately reduce the crime, if we reduce what's going on in those communities, in those neighborhoods, that goes a long way to also helping the police force not to have a different set of rules or a different focus, or to be extra, have extra adrenaline when they go into those areas and then lean on excessive force. I'm not making any judgment, or I'm not making any excuse for the use of extra force. If you listen to the program, you know that I have been very vocal at my opposition to, the attitudes and the excessive, the excessive ego, the lack of personal restraint by many law enforcement officers, but also my respect for that community overall and for what they do, and the fact that they put themselves in harm's way for our protection each and every day. But I do think that Black Lives Matter needs to look at their structure, that they need to look at what they're doing. And when there are areas like in Chicago where there's a huge uptake and there's an obvious problem, a critical issue in that community, that they need to be spending their resources, they need to be spending their time, and they need to be extremely vocal and how outraged they are that in these black communities, that black lives don't matter. Because in the end, black lives do matter. In this country, all men are created equal. And it's important that everybody understands that everybody views that everybody lives and rules based on that number one principle. In order to get there, we need to make sure that within all of our communities that we understand that and that we find ways to bridge gaps between us and not, make those gaps big, huge valleys that we can't get over. Black Lives Matter is an important organization, and they're doing some good by, shining a light on injustice. But they need to focus on what it is that really matters. And if those Black Lives matter to them, they need to find ways to help to address it, or at the very least, bring it to light. Make sure that when murders like that happen, that they make the news all over the country, that everybody knows what's happening, and everybody understands that we need to funnel resources and attention and, action from all types of organizations to help address this problem and to make it right. It's not just a police brutality issue, which is an issue and it needs to be addressed. It's an issue that needs to be solved because when innocent black men are killed by police officers or by anybody else, it's a problem. It's a crime problem. It's an attitude problem. And it's a systemic problem that needs to be addressed from multiple different directions. And groups like Black Lives Matter needs to have a focus on how we address this and needs to be putting a lot of their millions and millions of dollars of resources to addressing it in these communities that are in a critical situation right now. Because if they don't start at the grassroots level, if their only objective is to identify police brutality and bring that to light, then they're missing the problem. They're missing the issue. They're missing what's really going on, which is that black people are being murdered. Innocent black people are being murdered. And that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable from the police. It's not acceptable from just average, everyday citizens. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be fixed, and it can't be overlooked. And Black Lives Matter right now is overlooking it. They're ignoring it. They're downplaying it. When these kind of murders happen, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be brought to the attention of the people, and resources from a number of different organizations that are available need to be brought into these communities to address the problem and to fix it. And only once we make that happen is Black Lives Matter as an organization really fulfilling its mission, which is making sure that, the rights, the freedom, and the lives of black people are protected everywhere. You have been listening to a production of the American Soundbite. This is a podcast that features common sense thoughts of this everyday American. The last 10 minutes have been the most valuable 10 minutes of your day, so congratulations on joining us. I'm certainly glad that you have been here for this, important but also controversial topic. Hey, if you're at work right now, or if you're getting ready for a Zoom meeting in your dining room, make sure to let people know that you listen to the American Soundbite and that it would be a great idea for them to listen as well. While you're at it, the like button that's on the bottom of the app that you're listening to us on, if you like the content, if you like the structure of the show, click on that. Let me know. If you have any comments or even criticisms, type those in there. I do read them, and it will affect change here on this program. Make sure that you follow us that you check us out each and every day, and, well, that you tell everybody that we're here. Thanks a lot for listening. I hope you have a great day, and God bless. And that is a wrap of our podcast. It's the first day back from, I was on I was working, and was not able to broadcast the video, and actually several days I wasn't able to broadcast any audio from the program either. So I apologize for my absence, but now we are back, and we're going to get back into the swing of things. And so make sure to join us every single morning here, well, on all of these streaming apps, including Facebook Live and YouTube Live and Twitch and the Twitter. All of those, you can watch the American Soundbite. And of course, you can download it each and every day, or you can even listen to all of our back podcasts from the Spreaker app or even Apple Podcasts. Find us, the American Soundbite, subscribe to the channel, and download each and every episode, whichever way that, well, is most convenient for you. Thanks a lot for watching. Look forward to